evening, folks. Welcome to the WhiteWalkers Chat and Craic. My name is Chris BROWNFIELD. I will be co-hosting this little feature with us this evening. We've got with us Dave Toppin in the background running our Facebook and social media accounts. And this evening we're very, very lucky and honoured to welcome Kieran Campbell, the outgoing and departing head coach of Ulster Rugby Academy and formerly the Irish Under-20s coach. So Kieran will be joining us for a wee bit of chat and crack and banter before he leaves us and heads off across the Ealing Trailfinders. So welcome everybody, and it's a pleasure to see you this evening. At the moment, I am missing one of my famous WhiteWalkers, Mr. Nigel QUIGLEY. I am not sure, he appears to have gone AWOL, but it's all good. Mr. David Toppin, are you there, sir?
Hello. Good evening.
Nice to see you this evening. How are you?
Not so bad, not so bad. Glad to be here. You know, it's going to be an absolute cracking show, Chris. I'll be honest with you. I've been looking forward to this one. Even though really they sort of pushed me off the wall here just to jump in, and whilst we find the aforementioned Night King. But just to sort of remind everybody that tonight's show, we are supporting a lot of our local businesses here. It's brought to you by Hellbent, the purveyors of the finest brewerwors this side of South Africa. And our good friends at Kinako Biltong, who provide some of the fine ranges of artisan food, and also Auto Door Services, who provide auto door solutions for any of your needs. Chris, I suppose the first thing we need to look at, just thinking of where things were at after the Tigers game before we got to the weekend. Obviously, the news that Cooney's ended up with a neck injury after that collision with Nadolo after the Tigers game. Obviously, we'll touch on a few things to do with yellow cards, red cards. Was it really a card, or was it just a big collision? I'm sure we'll be touching on that one later. But obviously, we haven't come through without a few bumps and bruises along the way. Have you heard much yourself about where things are at with the squad?
To be fair, things are being kept fairly close to the chest. I think Ulster are being quite guarded about what they're actually letting in now, particularly regarding Cooney. But I was certainly made aware of the neck injury probably 2 days before it was announced. And obviously, the concussive effect of that collision. So let's hope it's nothing absolutely serious. But when you do hear neck injuries and actually, the pain, the discomfort that's going to come with that, one could probably assume it's going to be quite a while before we see Cooney back in the park. And I hope it is, muscular and nothing with skeletal or neuro damage whatsoever. But, again, the Ulster physio squads and the strength and conditioning team will do absolutely everything with the medical teams to make sure Cooney is fit, well, and in a good place to actually get back onto the park as and when that is. We can only hope, and obviously for Cooney's health, family, long-term future, we really, really hope it is purely muscular in origin rather than anything else. But who knows? Yeah, there's very, very, very little coming out in that. And obviously, we had that big discussion a couple of weeks ago regarding where we are with the second row in terms of cover and all that kind of thing. And are we going to get maybe a bit of injury cover coming through? Again, nothing coming out of Irish rugby whatsoever. Nothing even being hinted at the minute. Regarding what's going on there. So, it's been an interesting couple of weeks. As we know, and we'll go a lot more in detail, results haven't been going our way. But, on a really positive note, despite Cooney's absence, I've got to say that on the weekend there, I thought both Shanners and Nathan Doak really, really stepped up to the plate and delivered some brilliant, brilliant rugby from the 9 shirts. So that was really promising, given that Shanners hasn't had much game time this season. He really did step in and what for Nathan, absolutely great 20 minutes coming in there at the end. So super to see him doing so well at this stage.
Absolutely. I thought Nathan did exceedingly well, and considering where things were at, I think we've got lots of promise coming through for the season ahead. Just seen one there from Sam Graham. Sam, pleased to have you here with us. He's also looking forward to this probably as much as we are. I know once we were chewing the cud this week, Chris, and by golly, there was plenty of cud. It was, when we came up with the idea for this week, we I think we were both excited about the prospects for it, and certainly I know the guys will be looking forward to hearing what Kieran has to say. I think the only other thing that I sort of seen in the news this week was that blistering try from Aaron Sexton in the sevens. My crikey, there's gas there to be had.
There is, and as I actually posted, it was just nice to watch him cruise Route 66 straight through the US of A. He just absolutely lit her up. And that's what we've seen him doing for the academy here at the Ospreys in Brewery Fields a couple of seasons ago. And he just showed his absolute promise. And it's great to see. It's great to see that the sevens for him is the absolute perfect fit right now. He's got acres of space, and you just need to dip him that wee ball, and he's gone. But we could talk about Sexton and his pace and his absolutely superb decision not to commit to athletics and swing across the rugby as his career. And I think that's an absolute testament to what the academy have set up and what Ulster Rugby are doing going forward. That he had two very, very significant career opportunities, and he swung in favour of ours. So that's a testament to what's going on backstage.
Well, absolutely. Well, here, I looked at that footage maybe 3 or 4 times, and frankly, the referee I think was still at the halfway line by the time he got up to the try line. I think was almost expecting Wiley Coyote to sort of hold up the sign saying, "Oh dear."
Yeah, and I must say there, to be fair, Aaron took the foot off the pedal about 25 meters out and just more or less walked it over. It was just hilarious to just see just how much space he had and just how he could just literally gas it off and just trot over into stop down. I thought at one point if he had kept her lit, he'd have gone straight over the in goal line and then skipped it. But luckily he did find the gas burners and bring it to a stop. But no, it was great. And we could talk about the tries, we could talk about the absolutely beautiful pass to Gilroy to set him up for his into the corner. That was just sensational. And we've got lots to talk about over the Leinster game. There's Sam Graham, always got a greyhound reference to chuck in. He had an amazing challenge for greyhound rescue racers, so his links to the greyhound had to come out at some stage. Thank you for that, Sam.
Well, I think in that case had to be trap 5. I think for that one, and I think even the hair was scared. Double quick time for that one, Sam. It's been as I said, it's been quite the strange couple of weeks, to find Benetton, vying for top spot in the north. Yeah. Obviously looking at things at the south as well, and obviously the possibility of this north versus south game. It's going to be interesting to say the least. In fact, I see Stephen Somerville. Hey, Stephen, how are you? Well, guys, hope you're keeping well. Definitely improved performance on Friday, wasn't it? Absolutely. The only question we can ask is, where did that come from? Can we keep that going, please? Because we have no idea where we found that one.
To be fair, Dave, I think I said it. That was the performance we've been looking at all season. Since pre-Christmas, we have not hit our straps like that. And post-Christmas, there was a bit of a dip in form for whatever reason. And the guys just lit it up on the evening. But obviously the result didn't go our way. That's something that we'll talk about later on as well, about, just where is it? Where is it for Ulster Rugby to make that clinical finish? And I think Dan McFarland made reference to it, that there was a lot of positives from the game, but we're just not clinical enough. That last 5 yard area, at the end of the day, Leinster get in that area, they're going to score virtually. Well, they didn't score so easily against us, to be fair. We held them up more than probably ever before, held them out. But actually, they do invariably, if they hit the 22 5-meter line, you're expecting 7 points to come out of that from virtually a revisit, and that's where we need to be, and it's what needs to change to get us there. That's some of the big questions going forward.
And for me, actually, the performance of the night, not just on the pitch, but off the pitch, the off-pitch performance of the night was actually our own very own Ron Burgundy, Mr. Cave.
Absolutely.
Absolutely laying in to all and sundry. I've never seen the guy so pumped up since. When was the last time he scored? It was an absolutely. Probably the most erudite performance by a rugby player coming out of the traps and just saying exactly what he thought, and absolutely laying into the referees, TMOs, and anybody else who was in the firing line about not only the collision stroke tackle with Henshaw and Balakoon, but also in terms of the example it's setting for youngsters, going forward. And when we look at the Aki red card and we look at what happened with Henshaw, it's virtually the same sort of problem. It's virtually the same sort of tackle, but the way it's now being dealt with, does that set a dangerous precedent?
Well, it does, and it kind of unhinges everything that rugby's trying to set about the tackle line and encouraging players to go low. So it kind of has, a lot of people have said if that was a reverse, if that was Balakoon on Henshaw, there'd have been a card all day, blah, blah, blah. With the referee and the like, we will never know that for sure as to how that decision will go, but people have got their own bias on it. For me, it's all about World Rugby have set the levels. They want people to be tackling well below the shoulder line. And even whenever Balakoon hit the floor, there was still not a seatbelt around the shoulder / neck. There was so many cards could have been dumped out in one go on that. And yet it came away with nothing. And what I thought was particularly interesting had to be Ian Henderson's reaction. I have never seen Hendy actually take the leadership in such gusto. He was absolutely incensed. And it's interesting because we actually had a chat, me and Mike Robinson from the club. We had a chat earlier in the week sort of saying that, we need someone of the Paul O'Connell, the Martin Johnson, someone of that absolute raw fire in the belly. And it's been a long time. I mean, probably Johan Muller maybe might be the last time that sheer amount of aggression, controlled. But actually, Hendy showed it. And I think his little lion cub has finally found his roar. And I think it'll actually set him up very, very strong going forward as our club captain.
Oh, for me, for sure, that 2 minutes with Hendy, really did, he gets it. He now gets it. And I think now that he's got, what that means to have that bit of fire as a captain, to show that leadership on the pitch, and to see the effect it had on all the players, even at that stage of the game, it was absolutely the biggest motivator since Alex Ferguson's hairdryer. Absolutely. Well, put it this way: if you had Hendy shouting at you from 2 yards, you'd be thinking, "Oops, what have I done wrong here?" It's one of those things.
He didn't just display that. He didn't just display that with his verbal outburst. He actually picked it up and he drove big meters, running over people. Ringrose, I think, was on the receiving end of one of those for sure.
Well, Johnny Wappa, hey Johnny, how are you? Good to see you on there. Would Stuart Barnes have done anything differently?
That's one all day, isn't it? Stuart
absolutely.
Barnes, it's interesting, really. So lots to think about, and I mean, for me, there was probably a more significant effect that went completely uncharted, and it was McGrath on Nathan Dope. And how that wasn't a penalty try on the post, I've got no idea, because beyond Toki, there was absolutely nobody to take him out and tackle him except for that very, very sly, subtle little trip going through. And I sort of thought that the Balakoon Henshaw stole all of the limelight, when in fact there was something much bigger going on that was missed in the last sort of 15 minutes.
Yeah, well, we'd like to think that that'll be picked up on during the week, and obviously we'd like to see something, and certainly Gregor, I totally agree, sir. Penalty try should have been.
Yeah,
absolutely, without a doubt. We'll pick up on some more of that later anyway, Chris, but how do you say we get to the main event here?
Absolutely. Let's call Mr. Kieran Campbell to the party.
Kieran, how are you, sir?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm going to have to go a long way to live up to that preamble that's just gone on there. I'm going to have to really hit high notes. Keep up with that.
Don't you worry. Well,
Oh,
you've got your
Kieran. Plenty of room, sir. Plenty of room.
Yeah. You've got your IT team set up in the background, Kieran, and everything. I mean, we can't compete with that. Welcome, Kieran. Absolute pleasure to see you this evening, and from everybody in the Threebod rugby group, a huge thank you for joining us this evening and taking some time out of your schedule, especially with what's going forward in over the next couple of months. So really, really appreciate your time this evening. All good. So tell me, before we get into the nitty gritty, exactly what were you going to say during that presentation before the on-plane flew over? There's been no aircraft flying out of that airport all year, and the one time we needed a quick chat, quick voiceover, bang. So, in brief, Kieran, what were you actually saying?
No, first of all, thanks very much for the presentation. It was very kind, unexpected, obviously, but it was nice to see the two guys there as well, because we're obviously limited to who's coming to see us at the minute with everything that's going on with COVID. But no, it's just I think it's exciting to be joining you guys tonight. We obviously enjoyed all our trips away and the support we've been getting from the South Wales Ulster Supporters Club, and I think there's been many times as well where the guys have really appreciated that when we've been on the road. So no, it's great to be with you here tonight, and yes, some trepidation to what might be asked, but yeah, we'll find a diplomatic way to answer most of them.
Absolutely, even if it's semaphore or something different. But all good. And again, just on a wee note before we look at some of the questions that our supporters chucked in. What was your favourite role, player or coach?
Asking me now at nearly 42, definitely coach. Looking at the size of some of the guys who are coming through, and when most of them are towering over me when I'm trying to coach them, I'm definitely glad I'm not playing. No, look, it's I think at every stage in life, there's different parts of that, isn't there? When you're in the midst of playing, obviously it's really exciting, and I suppose I was fortunate enough to have the best years of my career with Ulster, and there's certainly nights where I played which you'd love to relive now. But look, I've been really lucky at my job. I don't really view it as a job, really. It's right now I'm really fulfilled with what I'm doing. Really love coaching people. It's been a pleasure to coach young lads and bring them through to the senior team here. It's been hugely fulfilling, I have to say. At this point in my life, it's great. But yeah, so it's I suppose it just comes with stages in your life, Chris. I suppose right now I'd like to think, my wife would probably say I'm definitely not, but I'd like to think I'm maturing in some ways, and coaching is starting to suit me, and I'm enjoying helping other guys come through and reach their potential. But I certainly would give my right arm to go back and do a European night in Ravenhill. Definitely.
What nights they are. Absolutely immense. And I tell you what, we'll just quite happily take a night of being allowed back in to just enjoy them from the stands, to be fair.
Oh, absolutely.
We'll quite happily stand the stands without a doubt.
There was a certain pleasure in needling Kyle Sinclair, on a Harlequins night.
And others, I'm sure. But yeah, and Kieran, for me, it's all about, where's your long-term ambition? What is your absolute goal? Have you got something like that set out in your head where you're hoping to go, or is it just literally follow the path and see where it ends up?
No, genuinely, I want to be, I suppose, easy. It's easy to nail that down. I want to be the best senior coach I can possibly be now. I mean, I've found it really, as I say, fulfilling and rewarding to do the role I'm doing. But I've always been in the game to try and be the best I can be at whatever I'm doing, be it playing or coaching. And I suppose the easiest way to answer that is just want to achieve the highest level I possibly can as a senior coach. And it's too hard to say at this stage where that will take me. Because as we all know, it's never a straight route in these things, and you don't know where it's going to end up. But I guess in a very immediate term reflection, that would be the driver.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, in terms of not taking the straight route, I think Bradley Roberts is an absolute epitome of going the long way around to get somewhere. His pathway to the Ulster shirt is absolutely phenomenal if you want to take it like a long way around. But as my mum always said, the longest way around is the quickest way home sometimes. So that's not a bad battle.
He definitely hasn't been to a hairdresser on that route, though. Looking at the mum.
Well, they were all closed on route, the looks of it. But,
come on, the finest mullet in the land. Robert Bradley, come on.
I would say the only person envious of that right now would be Shane Byrne, if he could relive his mullet.
Oh, absolutely. And I tell you what, if we look at the successes at coaching level, we look at someone like Mark McCall at the minute, and just think, look where he's gone to with his coaching career at DOR of Saracens. Absolutely phenomenal success. As an Ulsterman, kicking on and doing big things. And obviously, I can't remember the name of the fella, but there's a chappie out in New Zealand actually made an appearance in Newton
Johnson Bear.
And he's going on the great success down south in the Southern Hemisphere. So you know what, the coaching route will definitely favor you. You've done phenomenal stuff with our lads already, and long may that continue with wherever you end up. So we'll be behind you all the way on that, which is great.
Well, Kieran, we've got a first question in here from Stephen Somerville. Kieran, do you see the potential in the under-20s to become huge stars in the future?
Yeah, I mean, look, we definitely think so. I'm not sure. I mean, there's always guys from coaching under 20s who've gone on to become real stars. You have to look at, I suppose, Jacob himself, Stockdale with us, who had prominent under 20s careers and came on to be real stars. And then even with ourselves at the moment, guys who are starting to come through, like James Hume, Michael Larry, all played Irish under 20s. So there's a huge amount of turnover. Stuart Moore, who's starting to deliver well with us as well. So in the present crop, we're touch wood, it looks like we're going to have a significant group this year who are going to be involved. And I know certainly out of them, there's some real potential. And when I say real potential, it's not just a loose term. Real high potential. You talk about Aaron Sexton, who played in the sevens as well during the week there, but there's Jude Postlethwaite and Ben Moxon from Ulster who are under 20s this year, who are really, really quality backs as well, who are with the sevens, who I think will have big futures at Ulster as well. So I suppose that in short, I suppose we've already seen with some of the guys that are coming through from the 20s that they're having significant careers with Ulster, and there's guys I think who are going to come through in this present crop, if that answers the question, who some of them are playing the sevens at the moment and performing well, and I think there's quite a significant number who will be involved in this up and coming Six Nations who I think will go on to have big careers as well.
Oh yeah, I mean it is looking really, really strong, and what's interesting is huge discussion there about our backs. What's going on with forwards? What have we got coming through, Kieran, in the way of big ball carriers? Big power guys, particularly around front row, second row. Is there anyone we should be really, really looking out for going forward, or what's happening there?
Yeah, well, look, I think obviously Dave McCann will come through in time. As you know, the forwards is a little bit, say it quietly, a little bit more difficult to come through in. Don't like to give them as a past nine. Don't like to give too much to the forwards, but we have to accept that. We have to accept that it is slightly tougher to certainly physically come through as early as the backs come through. And I think David will do well and come through. I think you've got Callum Reid, who's starting to appear now in the forwards regularly. Again, props aren't going to hit their top end until the 23, 25. That's just the nature of it. And then without naming too many names, I mean, there's some other really quality guys like Tom Stewart, who's a hooker, who's coming through. And there's some younger guys too. Just a little bit early to name them, but there's quality there that will start to appear now in the next couple of years. And as I say, I do think it'll take those guys a little bit longer than the backs to establish themselves. But when they do, we'll have some really good Indigenous Ulster forwards who come into that pack, and I think that's exciting. I think it's something for people to hopefully be able to get behind when they arrive. And I know I've always had this said to me 5 years ago when I came into the job, which was very kind from someone who kept telling me that they always felt that the jam was coming tomorrow. So at least now I can say that the jam is starting to appear today. So it will. Those forwards are just going to take a little bit longer to bed in, but there's some real quality there, and you've got to remember that a guy like David, Callum, they're Grand Slam winners at Irish under 20s. It's just they're young, and it's going to take a little bit longer for them to come through as forwards. And we've got some real quality going into the forwards with the Irish under 20s again this year. So I think there will be. One thing is we're going to have to understand though, is particularly with the forwards, is we'll always need some support there. Literally just because of the physical demand of what you need now, certainly to compete in Europe. I mean, you're not talking average size men, you know. And I mean, when you see someone like, Tom O'Toole is coming through as well, they're not small men, but unfortunately, with the demand of the pro game, the size of athlete at that kind of front five position now in particular, and even number 8 is phenomenally demanding, to be honest.
It is. What's quite interesting is a lot of chatter goes on around Michael Lowry, given his sheer size. And you look at someone like Michael Lowry taking down Nakawara last year in the Champions Cup. He will tackle everything and anything that's thrown at him. And there's a few people saying he's too small, but when you've got an absolutely pitch perfect tackle technique, he will take down anybody, and he's not afraid to put himself out there. And some are saying, well, what about the demands in the game? What impact's that going to have on his body going forward? But the guys are truly monumental compared to when you played, or even when I played schools rugby, or Davey played schools. It's a completely different game from the amateur to the professional ranks nowadays, and they're just big, powerful ball carriers across the full 15. Really.
Yeah, I think in Michael's case, you're always going to need someone who can break the game up, someone who's got a skill set which is slightly special in terms of his footwork and his ability to break the line and his distribution. Also, Michael's a clever decision maker. And when you look at Damian Mckenzie as well, he's very similar to that. And you're going to need those type of players in the game, because they're the type of guys also who are going to break the game up for you. I don't think for him, for the positions he plays at 10 and 15, he needs to be a huge man mountain anyway. And also, in respect of Michael, you talk about bravery and he's second to none. He always has been like that since he was 15, 14 when we first saw him. So, I think with that type of player, he will have longevity with us. And the other thing to know about Michael as well, and all the young guys in fairness to them that are coming through, they're so hugely professional now that in terms of their bodies and stuff, they're in super condition.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's going to make a massive difference in terms of bone density and muscle tone, and everything that's going to make him tick is just there. But his pace, his step there's almost a wee bit of Shane Williams sort of in terms of his step and everything else. He's just immensely powerful off both feet, and like I say, eyes up, heads up rugby all day. Just naturally brilliant at it. So just a few other wee questions just while we're here, really. Obviously, one question came in from Twitter about what are your views on the movement of players around the provinces, and particularly from Leinster into Ulster, for example. Is it preventing talent coming through elsewhere, or do you think it's a necessary tool for the Irish rugby objective, perhaps even more so than the Ulster? What's your thoughts on that?
I think from being involved in some of that movement and the discussions which go on, I mean, there's only someone ever taken if we believe that they can add something to the environment. It's not just a case of taking someone in. And I think the first thing also with that is whether there's a positional need in terms of supporting us and being the best team we can be. With the, I suppose there is an amount of Leinster guys who've moved to us, but we're getting a balance with that. Those guys who've come in, I think, have bought into the system really well. I don't think we can complain about what Eric O'Sullivan or Nick Timoney have delivered for us. Geordie, so in terms of the guys who've come in, I think we've had a significantly good contribution for them. I think some of the guys who've grown with us, like Eric and Nick, have benefited hugely from being with us as well, because it's allowed them to come through. Has it blocked our talent? No, because I think we're still seeing a significant turnover of talent, of Ulster talent into the team. I think, Chris, you're quite right to point out is we need to start seeing that into the forwards now as well. But I believe that will happen just with what's coming through. But yeah, I think there's a balance to that, but also what we've achieved with that movement and that's brought to us. I think it's been good, and I think in terms of blocking players or coming through, I don't think so. I think we're still getting as I said, a significant turnover into senior squad.
I mean, it's really positive that you're talking about even going back as young as 15, seeing those 15, 16, 17, that there is that turnover of talent starting to appear at that young developmental age, and already the spotters, the guys who've got eyes on, that's brilliant for the movement of the academy, the under 17 structure. It's going to be, hopefully, like you say, it's going to be a 6-10 year sort of program really for those lads to get them up to where we need them, really, isn't it?
Yeah, that's when you talk about we've been talking about a few guys there, but when you talk about the likes of your Baloguns, your Larrys, your Jacobs, your James Humes, Stuart Moores, Nathan Dokes, these guys coming through. I mean that's where they start. I mean it's 15 years old, and then it takes 5 to 6 years for them to appear in the senior team. Your Dave McCanns, that's Callum Reeds, Tom Stewart's that are coming through now into the seniors. Aaron Sexton, even though he was sprinting, was still working with us from 14, 15. So you could go on there. There's other guys that we could go on talking about and listing, but it at the end of the day, that's what it is now. I mean, it's identifying them at 14, 15. We do have late developers as well who've come into us. Like Matty Ray was a late developer. Came back into us from club rugby. Ross Kane, Andrew Warwick. There's guys who do appear back in, but you'll notice again, I'm naming forwards. They're guys who will naturally mature a little bit later. And we do have a little bit of a later maturation up here in terms of boys, and particularly in the forwards, it takes a little bit longer for them to come in. But in general terms now, the process is taking place from about 14, 15, and then it's taken that time, as you say, Chris, to come through. But it's bearing a fair amount of fruit for us, and I think it's a system now which is in place, which will keep with the people here. We'll keep evolving, and I think keep producing good Ulster born and raised players to play for Ulster. But that, I suppose, what I caveat that with is, we can't afford either to ignore talent from elsewhere, and we can't. As I said there tonight, I'm not going to say that we shouldn't have influences from elsewhere if we need them. And I personally can't speak highly enough of some of the guys who've come in, like Eric and Nick and these guys. Even Angus Curtis, who came in from Zimbabwe, he's been injured, but he's a good player and he'll still do a good job for Ulster. So, as I say, there's a balance. But I do think the system will produce a significant amount of players from Ulster and going forward. And as you quite rightly said, Chris, is identified as it is in the backs at the minute, and I know the guys here have their eye on getting forwards through as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, just a quick bounce on that, especially with the way things have been going with the pandemic and everything else. Kieran, Johnny brings up a good point. I like this. Do you think the lack of the top level AAL rugby has an effect on the quality available to academy players, and especially when they're released back to their clubs for game time? Do you think, obviously, with the stop-start nature of where we've been at for the last year, do you think that's going to sort of affect the progress in that program?
I think any level of exposure for the boys. I mean, you guys have seen that with the A team. The exposure that the boys get to top end rugby is hugely significant and important. I think when they leave Irish under 20s is the big year, or the big 2 years, because during that sort of lead up to the Irish under 20s years and into the Irish 20s, they have a lot of heavy, high quality rugby delivered to them. I mean, they get almost 20 games in a year where they're under pressure every game and they're having to deliver. And that's not just between, it's obviously a combination of the A games and the Irish under 20 games as well. The following 2 years is always, I think, really, really important, because there's as I said to you, particularly I think for the forwards, the backs tend to get their opportunities into the seniors a little bit quicker, or hold places down in the A team a little bit earlier. But it's just making sure that they have that exposure consistently all the time. And I think, our AL clubs are doing a good job. That we don't. I think one thing people always forget as well is that those players have to go in and combine with other players, and we don't have the biggest population, comparatively, particularly with Dublin. So trying to support our AL clubs and getting better is something we do as an academy as well. We're definitely invested with them. And I agree there is that as much of that quality AL rugby we can release them to get exposed to is hugely important. The level at which that is it would be obviously the higher the better, but at the end of the day, if that's only going to improve and keep enhancing with how much support we also provide to the clubs and integrate with them to work together to help our players get the best exposure with them, but also to help the clubs raise the standard and rise up the leagues as well. So I hope that answers that.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
And all that, just a wee bit of an additional look to that, really, Kieran, would be if you were a decision maker, a persuader, an influencer, whatever way you want to call it, would you have kept the British and Irish Cup, or do you think the Celtic Cup was the way forward?
I think the consecutive games of the Celtic Cup has been really good for us. So I think the big problem for us with the BNI Cup wasn't so much the quality, but was the broken up nature of it. Whereas with the Celtic Cup, we were getting to coach the lads, preparing them weekly as professionals back to back. And that's a much more different experience, because it's a tougher scrutiny on the player. It's a tougher backing up week to week. It's tougher for everyone in terms of preparation and delivery into games and review. So it was a better context to prepare the player, I think, for what he was going into in terms of professional environment. The BNI Cup, the problem with the BNI Cup was, as good as the rugby was, we were having to play 2 games, then break for 6 or 8 weeks. The boys weren't getting the continuity of development that they needed. Now, we've discussed this ourselves. Like, sometimes we get a very, as you've seen, mixed and match game, particularly with the Welsh, because it's true that they sometimes don't give the competition the importance it should have, as we know. But then other times we've had really, really tough games with them. Like, you were at the game where we played the Dragons, and it was a hell of a game that day.
It was a cracker.
Yeah, and we've had other tough games in places as well. So Cardiff has given us tough games too. So yeah, I know it's a little bit hit and miss sometimes with what the Welsh teams do with their I don't know what you'd want to call them, their academy or their A sides, but I think in general terms it's been pretty good for us. And to be honest as well, our derby matches are so tough with the other 3 provinces that we probably don't lose too much with that.
And certainly the last Ulster Leinster game, the last A's/academy performance was just absolutely electric. From the full 80 minutes was just filled with skill from both sides, and of course we came out on top of that anyway in that fine fixture at Kingspan. So there is great quality and great talent. Just building that a wee bit. Where can we go with this? Let's have a wee chat. Let's bring it all the way back to you for a wee sec, Kieran. How tough was it for you to make the decision to switch to Ealing Trailfinders, given what the development at New Forge, given what you've actually done with Ulster Rugby, the academy already, and all those sort of bits and pieces? In terms of decision for you at this time in your career, how tough was that to make a break and move on?
Yeah. Look, it's massively tough. I mean, I people always look at it as well, I think, and obviously they're going to is from a rugby perspective, but my kids are born here. They're at school here, and they've, as my girl said to me the other day, for 10 years she's lived in Northern Ireland and grown up here. So it's my wife's got a job in Northern Ireland, so it's from that personal family thing to start with. It's a big wrench to go, but that's pro sport. And I think on the other side of it is the things you've mentioned, Chris, is like my playing days here added to I suppose the what I always said was a duty, I suppose, to deliver the best possible academy I could, with that emotional attachment I had to it for obvious reasons as well. But yeah, I mean, so it's I think it was a significantly tough decision, but I'm also aware that I think as an academy, I would like to believe it's in a good place. I think as a person and as a professional, I've got to investigate opportunities to further my senior coaching career at some stage, and also probably give someone else an opportunity to drive this program. And that's not because I don't have the attachment to it or the drive to stick with it. It's just probably at this stage I'm 8 to 9 years between working for Alan Clark and then leading the academy, that it's probably a time that I need to maybe freshen a little bit myself and investigate a different challenge, and it's probably time for someone else to invest in this and take it on. So I suppose that the nature of it is probably good timing for me, but yeah, it's no decision any easier, but it's
I mean, obviously the academy had the retired Willie Anderson gone out. We've just lost another phenomenal coach in yourself. So where does that leave us in terms of shape? Have we had any names in the hat for successors? Obviously, you maybe can't even discuss that yet, but presumably there's something going on that is looking bright for the future in terms of the coaching setup.
Yeah, well, what I'd say on that is obviously, Chris, I can't say who's coming in and all those type of things, but it's really, really promising, and who will be coming in, it will give the academy another jump again, from a coaching and a leadership perspective. Anyone who's involved in this now, as well as I've always said this, it's whenever you come in or whenever you're driving this, it's about creating the best academy we can and leave. And every time you impart your practice on it, that you're creating a legacy. And the next people to come in with us will hopefully take that mantle and drive it hard as well. And I know that the people who are coming in will be excellent. They'll deliver a really, really quality academy, and that they'll be part then of making their own legacy and taking this on. And I think that's the important thing as well, is the people that come into or will come in, like Willie and myself, are extremely passionate about Ulster, extremely passionate about Ulster being the most successful team, academy and senior team we can be. Obviously Dan's charged with the senior team, and it's not, but we support that, and I'm very, very sure that the guys who are coming in to replace us will do a fantastic job. So you're in safe hands, Chris.
Excellent, good stuff. Because we want more of those sweeties brought across the park at half time when we're next time in Ospreys or Scarlets. We talk always straight, never goes amiss to me and Mike. Well, that was Brewery Fields. That was Brewery Fields. But obviously a lot's been going on at New Forge over the pandemic and bits and pieces. Are you able to give the guys a wee bit of insight into just how good New Forge is looking for us as a training academy now for the guys to come through, in terms of the stadium and the stands and bits and pieces? That's something you can tell us?
Yeah, I mean, the guys who kindly came to give me the crystal, which I can tell you it's been packed away, it's ready to go. So being pride of place. But the New Forge, New Forge is part of the new development, and that's what I mean. I mean, it's not just because I'm Willie or anyone goes, like the thing is still moving and moving really at a fast rate. And New Forge it will be a centre of excellence. There's going to be a fantastic gym there. There's already a 4G in place. There's already a new stand and everything being put in place. That's hopefully touch wood with the A team will play their home fixtures as well. So, it's our first. I think just getting this right, it's our first centre of excellence, which will be used to nurture our young players. And I'm not long back from there tonight, and we had everyone from the under 17s to under 20s there. And it's given them a base to work from, a fantastic facility to work from, and again, it's the start of a new age there, and it's another chance for the academy and the pathway to kick on again.
Brilliant stuff.
I see here there's they're bringing Gregor Go as usual. Say, but I bet you'll have a lot of Ulster fans back in Ealing Trailfinders over the next wee while. And
I'm intrigued to see what the people of West London will make of you guys when you walk in. That's the biggest thing.
As I said, they're going to have to bring some of your defenders, Kieran, because we are definitely coming on mass. And I tell you what, I mean, I've been keeping in touch with Angus Kernahan quite a lot. He's having a wheel of time. The Trailfinders are absolutely flying along with tries coming like candy bars at the minute, and everything that you're going to bring that is just going to make that club bigger and stronger and stronger. And we really wish you well with that new venture down there. And obviously, Billy Johnson's gone over there as well to add more weight to it, so it's going to be quite a gig, really. It's great. Just where we bring this to a close, really. Obviously, you and I had a wee bit of a brief earlier on, Dave, earlier in the week, but it's been a phenomenal season for Ulster Rugby in many ways. There's been so many highs, massive highs this season for Ulster in terms of going throughout the standard programme league, unbeaten, give or take, by Leinster's two fixtures. But other than that, going through in the second place in that conference and things. And then we kind of hit this last end of the season stumbling block right at the end, where we've come unhinged in the Rainbow Cup following that Challenge Cup semi-final bits and pieces. So, the amount of times I hear people describing us as the nearly men of rugby, across both the provinces and across Europe, where every year on year we get right to the quarters, go right to the semis. We actually have a really good record in that, and then we just stumble, we just fall short of picking up a bit of silverware. Is that a psychological thing? Is that a stumbling block? Is that somewhere where now we're just mentally unable to bridge that gap, or do you think it's something else? And do we need greater support from sports psychology across the Ulster Rugby framework? What's your thoughts on that, Kieran?
I think it's just a tough period. Like, we people external to us, and and if you think of our own lives as well, like COVID's having an exceptional impact on our lives, right? To perform the way we've done, let alone with that type of pressure, and everyone's normal, staff, players, we're normal people dealing with our own family, home situations as well. I know that's the same for every other club, but we've done a phenomenal job in dealing with that. I think the league campaign was reflective of that, and we were very unlucky. Let's be honest. If any other year, we would have had a semi-final.
Yeah, absolutely.
And well-earned semi-final. In respect of the immediate now, okay, we've hit a bit of a stumbling block. Every team will. Unfortunately for us, it's the last thing that people are going to remember to the end of the season. But that to me is probably the tough. Well, no, but it's tough for the group to take, because in terms of, as you said, as our Pro 14 campaign was exceptional, we've had 3 away games, Challenge Cup.
Yeah.
All against okay, Harlequins, people will say, put out a softer side, but we beat a good Northampton team away from home, who are a top 8, correct, 6th or 7th in the Premiership. Leicester, in the first half, we were excellent. Probably played the best rugby of the year, and then we probably have made a few let's say, critical errors away from home, which always tougher away from home, which then have led to us losing our foothold in that game. So we've been small margins every time, and in respect to the Rainbow Nations Cup, it's then come on the back of a long season, and I guess we've probably had a little bit of I don't think it would be wrong to say, a little bit of a hangover from the Leicester game, and then struggled back into same.
On the flip side of that, the guys really lifted themselves massively for that Leinster game last weekend, and really showed why they were so good in the Pro 14 and why they deserved the European gig going into next year. Would you agree with that?
No, absolutely. I mean, we can't, and that's the other thing as well is, of course, professional sport, everything's going to be W and L. That's what people are going to look at. But in terms of where we are, I think that the Leinster performance, if you want, is a more reflective of where we are as a group. It's more reflective of where the squad is evolving to. And that's I'm not speaking for Dan on that. I mean, Dan's done a good job in terms of establishing the squad to where it is now and establishing the competitiveness of us as a group. It's just, again, you get lucky with a few calls. You get lucky, not lucky, but you get a little bit of more return from the amount of pressure we had in that first half, and we probably pull away in the second half. But they're things that it's still a young squad, remember too, and there's things that those guys will begin to understand, develop, learn, and I think it'll hold us in good stead for going forward into next season.
I think that was an essential performance to get the guys back into the place they needed to be mentally, and all those other aspects. I think that just really clicked, and will give them that confidence that the last period hasn't been as tough as perhaps the scoreboard reflects, maybe.
No, absolutely, it's. I think also you're talking about the evolution of Ian Henderson there earlier. You also in real time you're looking at the evolution of a lot of young guys. I mean, Michael, James, Robert Balakoon, Jacob's still a young man.
Jacob's still really young. It's easy to forget, but he's been around. A young man.
Nathan Doak was starting to appear there the other night. You got Dave Shannon, still a young man. These guys are young kids still, really, in the context of the pro game, and you've still got relatively young Ulster guys coming into the pack as well. So it's not going to happen overnight. It's probably going to take into next season another little push again, but I think the Leinster is a more reflective of where we are as a group, both as a team and as individual players coming through, and I do think it will bode well long term. And it's hard to know too, Chris, with the Rainbow Cup too. Is like it's been a difficult competition, hasn't it? Really, because the flow of it and how it's been organised has been challenging too. On top of that,
yeah, it has, and to try and make it happen. I mean, there's been huge financial benefits to every club from it going ahead, but logistically to make it happen in what is still a significant global pandemic is fair play to the Pro 14 to make it happen in any kind of guise whatsoever, and we can't forget that has been a unique challenge that they've managed to surpass, overcome, whatever, and you just think some of the results have been fantastic for the game. They've completely taken the rule book and ripped it up and just sort of got Benetton going like a flyer, Connacht beating all three nations, all three provinces, away from home, little results like that just across the year for Connacht have been brilliant. So I think in many ways, although we do routinely call it the George Zipian Bungle Cup, I do think it actually has offered some good rugby. But the flip side is, we're all desperately sorry to see the likes of George North getting his Lions tour wrecked as a result of this additional competition. That's something we're all worried about, really. I think is that some of the big guys like Hendy or some of the other guys down there in Leinster and Munster and Connacht are going to get injured as a result of competition with potentially not much riding on it as far as the season goes. But It's one food for thought for sure. But Kieran, can I just say, my friend, can we thank you very, very much for your contribution tonight? It has been an absolute pleasure to have a chat with you. I'm sure our guys on here have been extremely happy to have a bit of a chat with you and understand where you're coming from in your career and development. And can we wish you absolute bags of success going forward, fella? But thank you for your time. Much appreciated.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kieran.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Cheers, guys. See you soon. I'll see you in Ealing for a beer. Catch up soon.
Okay. Really nice. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, I think Dave's going to drop you out. Mr. Tobin, you got to say that was a mighty fine interview from our finest friend, Kieran Campbell there.
Oh, absolutely. And definitely it's great to get that wee bit of behind the scenes that we don't normally get to get. And I have to admit, Chris, it's been fantastic. But in the meantime, we've managed to track down this guy.
Who is that guy? Who is he? Who are you? Who are you? Who are you?
We are playing the Lesson Spotted Night King. So somewhere in the weeds. He says he'll catch up after to hear Kieran's points. Absolutely, Nigel. Absolutely cracking chat with him. So some good banter there, and Connor from Port Provinces and from the Leinster Lion. Connor, great listen to Kieran. Best of luck in the future career. Good to hear from you there, Connor. And so forth. And Sam, thank you very much. Great episode. Absolutely. Well, we knew we were on the winner as soon as we heard that we were able to get Kieran on the show this evening. And Ray, Mr. B Senior, Ray, good to see you. Great interview. Absolutely. The man's done a blinder of the day. Nice one, Chris. And we'll
there going, that's my boy.
That's my boy.
That's my boy.
Just to finish it up here, Chris. What do you have? These law variations? Just a very quick couple of minutes on it before we disappear into the ether again. When we were talking about the captain's challenges,
yep.
They seem to be the most confusing part of all these law variations, and certainly looking at how these have played out over the last few weeks, I think it's been. I don't think it was explained well enough exactly, what they could be used for, when they could be used, and whether or not it's up to the TMO to. Is there a separate procedure for the TMO to look at it from look at foul play or anything that the captain wishes to have a second look? Well, what's your thoughts on these?
Yeah, I mean,
challenges?
You know what? I think it's a bit of a throwback to tennis to a certain extent, where we're trying to physically, trying to give more voice back to the players. My concern is, Dave, first and foremost, our first 15 should be on the park to play rugby.
Mm-hmm.
Professional referees are employed to referee the match. We shouldn't need to ask one of our representatives, whether it's our captain or vice captain or 15 down the back of the park, to say, sorry, ref, I disagree with you. Can we look at that again? Okay. These guys are being paid big money to be impartial, give an unbiased opinion of what's played out in front of them. They've got bucket loads of tapes and video evidence they can go back to. Did I say tapes? I'm showing my age there. Digital footage, Mr. Topic. Digital footage.
Oh, no. Betamax, Squire. Betamax.
Absolutely. Betamax, chap. But you can see where I'm going with this. I don't think the players should be asked to referee their own game. Because across the 30 people in the park, give or take the refs, there's going to be a huge opportunity for those referees to see what's going on. Okay. And yeah, Captain Hindsight Challenge, kind of it. But actually, for me, do you know what? I think Ulster Rugby have played their hand too early. Right at the start of the game, in the first half, they're saying, guys, I want to challenge that. But what I did like, probably Adamson's best move of the weekend was send to McGrath, I'm sorry, but your opportunity for challenge has long since passed. Off you pop. For whatever that was about. I'm not sure what his nickel was, but it was quite nice that Adam just said, tell you what, fella, go in the change rooms, take a shower and wise up. But yeah, it's not great. I wish the 15 on both sides the opportunity to just play rugby and let the referees just do a damn good job of it.
There's a great one there from Gerald. Absolutely, absolutely should be dropped. But in terms of dropping one thing, what about B? Will you shut up? The Adamson Classic. And Johnny Wabbas says, I bet Ian was told by a message from Dan.
Yeah, I would say so.
But is there any little variations? Any of them very quickly? Would any of them? Would you want to keep any of them, or just drop the whole lot like a hot potato?
I really like the goal line dropout. If you hold up that ball should be yours to do with what you want. The idea of going back to a scrum reset, I'd go now forward like yourself, Dave. You're saying, no, we like that scrum reset. For the speed of the play, that ball needs to be shifted, and I think the goal line dropout I keep. Captain's challenge is done. As far as I'm concerned, if the tackle warranted a red card in the first place, it should be a full red card. I don't think, again, you're diluting the intensity of what a red card's about. Okay, so this 20 minutes and come back on, I'm not happy with that. I've just been that. It's almost favouring the idea that they're diluting a serious foul play. So that'll be me.
Yeah.
There could be an orange card all day or a black card for infringements that were technically unsafe, but they weren't clinically unsafe, and or dangerous in that respect. So I think a red card should be for something that was absolutely going to endanger the welfare of a player, and maybe a 20-minute card for someone who was just a complete numpty and professionally fouled in the hot zone. Off, take a longer shower, come back on. Or your mate come up. So yeah, a couple of wee things there. I'd definitely be happy to see shifted.
Yeah. Well, look, guys, we've come to time end. We'll blow the full time whistle on this one for this evening, folks. Just to remind you that we are supporting Hellbent and Kinako Biltong and Auto Door Solutions, and we like to thank everybody. And please remember, please do subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitter at the Threebod Rugby Group, on Instagram, Threebod Rugby, and keep an eye out. We will try and get some clips from that very excellent interview with Kieran throughout the next couple of weeks, and certainly we'll keep you informed. But certainly if you can, do like us, do subscribe, and certainly we'll keep you going with the best of what Ulster Rugby has to offer. Chris, thank you very much for chopping us through the waters here for this one. This has been an absolute cracker.
Yep, not a problem, my friend. All good. And can I just send my thoughts and prayers to Joe Shepherd and his family at Threebod Group, following the recent events in his family unit. So, Joe, absolutely love you. Part of the Ulster family, part of the rugby family, and God bless, fella.
And I'd like to add also, we'd like to send our best wishes to our good friend Kigo. Unfortunately, Kigo's also suffered a bereavement recently, and Kigo, our thoughts and prayers are with you, good sir. And hopefully we'll get to catch up with you soon. But everybody, thank you very much for watching. This has been another fantastic educational episode of the WhiteWalkers chatting Craic. He's Chris. I'm Dave. We'll see you soon. Take care, buddies.
Good night.